here on the show, and we have Kyla Dixon-Muir joining us for the second time.
Yes.
Right, Kyla?
Yes.
Although we did see you, actually, you've been here the last couple of weekends, haven't
I
you?
have, yes.
Enjoying
Yes.
the space.
Yep, absolutely. Missing the old elevator.
Yeah.
But
Well,
enjoying
Not so
the space out here.
anyway, great to have you back on the show. And the one thing I remember from the last time that you were here, because of course I'm interested in this subject, but was cold frames, which, if I remember correctly, was a way to grow all kinds of stuff in the winter right here in Toronto
Yes.
or in Canada. And but we're having a very cold winter this year and lots of snow. And I'm just wondering, how's the lettuce crop?
Well, things are hibernating at the moment.
Okay.
But plants that are established in the fall, even late fall, may freeze for a time, but that doesn't necessarily mean they die. It just means that they wait until the sun gets stronger,
Yeah.
or the weather gets warm.
Do they hold their nutrition?
Yes,
They do,
They
okay.
pretty much just stop growing until the weather gets warmer, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean the temperature of the air. If I keep the tops of the frames brushed off and the sun can get in, you know how in the summer the sun will heat the inside of your car or come in through the windows in your home. That great furnace in the sky, I call it, does amazing things heating small little spaces in the garden.
Even in the wintertime.
Well, we
Yes.
can feel it
Keeps your
even
car
now.
warm. Yeah, that's what I'm
Even
saying,
now,
yes.
the days are getting longer, and the sun, even if it's a cold, cold day, can be very bright and quite warm and nice to be in.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So it
Yep.
is starting to come back. Of course, it always does. Until one day.
You know what, though, Kyle? I don't understand how come you aren't huge. You should be huge with what you do, because what you do is so economical. I have a moving mic. What you do is so economical and so available to everybody. How come everybody does not know about this, including myself? How come?
I don't know. I do speaking engagements all across southwestern Ontario. We've been filming my speaking engagements and the tours that I do in the garden for a long time, and I'm in the process of editing those now. The CD Saturday season is starting. Lots of people at the CD Saturday events know me.
What is this? The CD, SEEDY, not
Yes.
CD.
Is Jacob responsible for that name?
I don't think so. It was started by the left coast hippies more than 20 years ago, I
well,
believe.
we've got some of those here in
So
the studio.
yes.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a movement that started on the West Coast, and it's about the idea of saving heirloom, organic, open, unpollinated seeds. And there are wonderful events. A company called Seeds of Diversity Canada is backing all of this, and there are 4 or 5 events in the Greater Toronto area, and CD Saturday events happening in Mississauga and Guelph and everywhere around southwestern Ontario beyond just here, but they happen all across Canada. So
Why don't we have a reality show with you? Here we have a reality show on border crossing. Have you seen that show?
No.
It's in Vancouver, and it's where it's literally the border patrol people speaking to
Yeah.
people coming into the
Yep.
So we have something like that, which to me is so insignificant.
This is a good reason why people should cancel their cable right now. Seriously, like,
But and we should have you on either the Life or Discovery or the Home and Garden or something. I mean, because it's so educational. I just, why aren't you picked up?
well, I'm moving in that direction. I really like to have my hands in the dirt. My personal website is mudpies.ca because I really like having my hands in the mud in the garden. I am user-friendly to technology, but I'm doing the work and doing the research and developing this practice, and I've just been in the garden with my head down doing that so much that I'm only out here and there speaking on rare occasions. But
Wow.
The DVDs that I'm putting together now should take that the next step.
do you have a greenhouse?
I have a one-bedroom apartment without even a balcony.
Okay.
I live in a very humble environment, but I look after a school board greenhouse part of the year.
yeah.
But cold frames are not a greenhouse.
No, I understand that, but I mean, it's just like, I mean, I hear you when I feel you when you say, you know, you like to get your hands in the dirt. I really enjoy, the garden thing as well, right?
Yes.
And I love to
Yeah,
be
but
able
you're a
to,
garden yuppie. I wouldn't consider you. I mean, I consider Kyla the real deal.
Oh,
I'm
thank
just
you.
look, I'm just saying, I mean, Kyla, and I think you would agree, really everybody, it's good for the soul to get your hands in the dirt and to
Absolutely.
grow some food, right?
Yes.
Yeah, even if you are a yuppie.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So can we talk a little bit about what cold frames are? Because you said they're not a greenhouse.
No, they're not a greenhouse. They don't have to use any electricity at all. It can just be done with the power of the sun. There are three basic concepts behind cold framing. One is to control the amount of moisture, and that is rain during the milder seasons, snow and ice, and the crush of snow and ice at this time of year. And they control the amount of condensation inside the frame according to how much you water it and according to how much sun is coming through. They also control the amount of wind, and wind carries grit, so when you're putting new little seedlings in, the particles of grit can really challenge new little seedlings. So you're controlling against moisture, and you're controlling against the chilling effects of wind, and you're controlling for maximizing the amount of heat that comes into the frame from that great furnace in the sky, the sun.
So how much of a rocket scientist do you have to be to know this stuff?
You don't have to be.
Okay.
You don't have to be.
Because
at all.
that sounds to me like it's a lot of information to know. And for someone like me, which is probably a lot of people out there who are just used to going to grocery store and buying my stuff, that sounds like a lot to know.
I use simple little square boxes. I use recycled wire cages that you can get from bird cages or guinea pig cages or rabbit cages or those modular drawer shelves. Turn them upside down. I stitch plastic to it, and that becomes a passive greenhouse, and that's all
Wow,
you
that's
need.
amazing. So you can actually do this in your apartment without even a balcony?
No, I don't.
Okay, it has to be
grow-
outside.
It has to be outside,
Okay,
and it
okay.
has to be mounted to or attached to terra firma. It's not something that can be successfully done in small planters up sitting on the edge of your balcony railing, because the freeze and thaw cycles expand and contract
Okay,
the
okay.
soil, so that stresses the root system of the plants.
Now, what is terra firma? Earth?
Earth.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The ground, a garden bed, soil.
So even an outdoor balcony would not be a good idea.
No.
Okay.
No.
unless
People
it's
ask me-
terra firma.
Yeah. If it was an entire significant green roof, yes, you could probably do that. But you need a significant mass of soil in order to make it effective.
Aren't there some buildings in Vancouver that are doing this kind of thing where they're having some sort of...
Yeah, green roofs.
There are
Yeah.
green roofs even here in
In Toronto.
Toronto. There's some
Okay.
really interesting green roofs here.
And you could do it on a flat roof, couldn't you? Because you
You
got
could.
the house is underneath is kind of keeping the warmth,
Yes.
right?
You'd-
So
you'd-
that it, yeah,
You'd have to have a significant soil mass. You can't do
Yeah.
it in little window box planters.
Right.
Not if you want to do it through the winter. You can certainly get something started a little bit earlier if you've got a big enough shelter around it. So if you were using a small planter, you would have to have a frame that was clear on all sides and came right down over it, like, for example, a large aquarium.
Okay.
Upended
okay,
over
okay.
a small planter. You might get a little bit of head start that way. But to effectively grow outdoors right through the winter, you need either to be right on the dirt or in a large raised bed like you see on the cover of my book or some of those brochures. See that one on the book there? That's built out of old recycled futon frames.
So-
It cost nothing.
so there's the book, and I don't know, and no, we've got a few other things. I don't know which camera we're on right now, but we've got this other array which shows this book and another book called Mother's Garden and a bunch of other stuff, Kyla.
Yes.
So including vinegar, right?
Yes.
So which should we talk about first about all that stuff?
Well, I will have all of that stuff at the different Seedy Saturday events that we're going to be at across the city over the next 6 or 8 weeks. And we'll definitely be at the Canadian Organic Growers Annual Conference this coming Saturday.
And where is that?
That is downtown Toronto. If you Google
I saw an ad for it on the subway, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yep, exactly. So down
Getting
near
out
City
there.
Hall. Yes,
It's
exactly.
great to see.
Yep.
It's now it's not seeming so bizarre to see the word organic. It's becoming a little more mainstream.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Which hopefully means it will be a little more affordable as well, because in some places that can be organic. It's a reason to charge more money.
Yes, if people are buying. I saw what was on your show at the end of last week about natural.
Oh, yeah,
Which
yeah.
that was delightful to see. Yes, real organics are grown with a lot of thought to the land and to the type of seeds, and those foods are far more dense and nutritious. So they may seem pricey, but if you spend any amount of time in the garden and understand the amount of labor it goes into to producing those things, it's a whole different world than factory food.
No
You know,
kidding.
that's a good. No, I wanted to. That reminds me of this one pamphlet that you have here, "Maximize Food Production in Small Spaces." No, I think I heard something recently that because the size of the average farm in Canada has been going up and up and up as
Yes.
families have been leaving the rural environment, and economically the farmers need more and more land to keep it viable economically. But what I heard was that there is the food production per acre is actually higher for smaller farms, and if farmers employ certain techniques that are more organic than the factory farming of the mass fertilizers, the
Wow.
big tractors, and all that kind of stuff.
That's absolutely true. And our community
Wow.
garden is an organic garden, and we practice growing a multiple of different vegetables in the same small spaces, as opposed to doing something monoculture like the big agricultural corporations do. And that mimics nature, and that means that, for example, if you had acres and acres and acres of exactly the same strain of corn and some sort of pest got into it, well, it's going to affect all of that.
And that's
But
what we see when we drive across Ontario.
Yes.
We just see these giant farms with all soybeans over here and all corn over here and all wheat over here, right? It's really not the way nature, like that's not how a forest is or a jungle or even a field. Right?
Exactly, and that's the way we do it in the community garden. If you look at the picture on that brochure, it's strawberries all around the outside of the raised bed, and squashes in it that went in after the lettuces came out from the winter.
Yeah.
So we interplant and we mix. There are strategies. There's a great book on this sort of idea of interplanting called Carrots Love Tomatoes, because you can actually plant carrot seeds, for example, in under the tomato plants, and they complement each other. There are some, it's a science, so it's not something you can just get great success with just any combination, but there are many ways to plant a bunch of different varieties together that benefit each other.
Yeah.
There's an old native practice called Three Sisters, where you plant squash seeds and they spread across the ground, and you plant corn and it grows tall, and you plant beans that will grow up the corn stalk.
Wow.
Three Sisters, yes. So
Wow.
that's a really great old practice, an organics practice that makes wonderful use, and the plants grow in harmony and support each other,
And that's something you're not going to get on a factory farm. You're just going to either plant the corn, or you're going to plant the beans, or you're going to plant the what was the other one?
yes,
Squash.
exactly, the squash.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I have 3 questions, practical type questions. Okay, so number 1, how much space would you need to feed maybe a family of 2 kids and 2 parents, so
Yeah.
a family of 4?
A self-sufficient
Yeah.
family.
Yep, and number 2, so how much space would you need, number 1? Number 2, do you need to be there every day? Do you need to attend to it every day? And because if people are going on vacation or whatever. And number 3, where would you put it? Like, does it have to be in a sunny area, or could it be in a shade? Like, what would a person consider when they're looking for that lot?
Food gardens generally require a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight, preferably longer.
Okay.
For cold framing, you actually need south-facing space because south is where the predominant sun comes from. As far as how much space to feed a family of 2 adults and 2 children, that's going to depend entirely on what it is they like to eat. Some plants grow very quickly, and you can get 3 crop rotations in the same space over a period of time. Other
Okay.
things take much longer to grow.
Okay.
So it's a hard question
You really
to
have
answer
to look
directly.
at the likes and dislikes of what the family and kind of customize it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you have to look at whether what you want to grow. We have a lot of berries in our garden, and those are perennial plants, plants that grow every year, like raspberry canes and blueberry bushes and saskatoons and such.
Okay.
So those plants are perennials that grow in the same space year after year. Other plants in our climate are considered to be annuals, where you plant the seeds every single spring. And that would be like tomatoes, which we generally start indoors because otherwise the season isn't long enough for them, or squashes like zucchini, which grow very quickly, and you can grow other things in the space before it gets hot enough for them to go in, and then they get put in as what's called a succession crop. So
Okay. And do you have to attend to it every day?
pretty much.
Okay.
You can walk into a garden with expectations of your own on what needs to be done, but there are a lot of people who practice something called mindfulness gardening, where you go and you spend a little time and you look, and Mother Nature will tell you what needs to be done.
Okay.
Oh, all of a sudden there are tomato worms on the tomatoes, and that's what I need to tend to today, regardless what agenda I've come here with.
Okay.
So yes, it
Okay.
depends on the weather.
Okay.
With cold framing, I don't necessarily have to be there every day, because especially at this time of year, things are hibernating. But in the middle of blazing heat in August, in full sun conditions, when we haven't had rain for 2 weeks, you better be prepared with the hose quite regularly.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Okay, now, Kyle, I'm going to ask you a weird question.
Okay.
I might have asked it the last time because it's the kind of question I would ask. But you know that finned horn in Scotland. There's like a little. Anyways, the thing is, it's a very inhospitable environment, and yet they do very well. I understand.
It's a
growing
food?
Yeah, they grow food there.
Plant?
It's a place in Scotland where they grow food.
Oh.
So my question is, because I understand they work with nature spirits,
Oh,
and I'm just wondering if you work with nature spirits, and when you're going into the garden, I don't know, they're like little leprechauns or something that live in the garden. I know it's a weird question.
all kinds of people have all kinds of approaches. Some people work with spirits. Some people plant by the moon and sow by the phases of the moon. There are so many different disciplines. The spirits that I see in the garden are the bunnies and the frogs, and we were graced with a red fox.
But did they eat all your food?
No. They take the rats and the mice, and we're very grateful to see them. But we had a whole summer just a couple of years ago, right in downtown Toronto, where we had a red fox coming through. I have video of him. The first time I saw him, I was. The equivalent, I was less than the distance across this table from him. I turned around to
Wow.
reach for a tool, and he was just sitting there looking at me.
I know. I've seen a red fox on
Yeah.
Sherbourne Street in
Yes.
Toronto before,
Yeah.
so I know they're around.
Yeah, so I consider those my sort of friendly spirits, if you will, in the garden. There are cats that come through, and bunnies, which I think is why the fox comes in, and an amazing number of creatures.
I also think too, you just, you say you love being in the dirt, and I think that for you is a very spiritual, I think you just really are the whole thing when it comes to, I think you are the spirit. I don't think you really need anything, because I think that you are it. And when you say, when I asked you how much do you have to go there, and you said, well, you let the earth and you let, them speak to you. And you may plan on going there for this reason, but you may go there and it's because of the weather or whatever else, you have to do something completely different and change your agenda accordingly. So that really is speaking to having that relationship and listening to what they're telling you they need.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I find that so often. I used to go to the garden with a list. I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And the garden taught me over time that it's fine. I can have my agenda. And if things there are copacetic, I may be able to accomplish some of it. But sometimes I get there and the pole beans have grown like crazy, and I need to spend some time twining them up. Or there's
Wow.
been a nice balance of water and sun, and the squash need to be trellised in a different way. Or there, you just have to go and
the
see.
flow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, we didn't talk about the vinegar yet, but I want to ask you about that.
Yes.
So tell
Yeah.
us about that.
That came about as a very happy accident some years ago. We had a bumper crop of berries, and here again is where I just had to pay attention to what was going on. I had frozen berries, and I had made jam, and I had dehydrated berries in the oven, and I had eaten all we could stand to eat fresh and put them in pancakes and everything I could think to do with them. And the berries kept coming. And picking the berries is a very time-consuming thing to do. This very old Ontario native species, it's called, informally called a black cap raspberry. Its Latin name is Rubus occidentalis. And it's a little tiny, whereas a regular raspberry is a big long cone. This is a little tiny flat button of a berry, and like most native species, it grows in ways to protect itself. So it has thorns on it like a rose on its stems, as opposed to the fine little prickles on the modern bred raspberries. So picking them is a challenge, but I was picking and picking and picking and picking, which takes time, but it's a lovely thing to do. And I got home and it's like, there's no more room in the freezer. It's too hot to make more jam. What am I going to do? I had a bottle of apple cider vinegar there, and I just dumped the berries in the vinegar and thought, well, let's see what happens. And it was a hit. And we now use a commercial kitchen to brew this. And our
Oh,
community
my
garden,
goodness.
yes, our community garden has no funding. We're the oldest community garden in Toronto. There has never been government support, and there have never been any grants or fundraising. We're on school board property, but we're not connected to the school, so that means we're out of reach to all the municipal
Programs,
and
yeah.
federal and provincial programs, and it's too much bureaucracy to try and write grants and get that put through the school board process. So this is why maybe you haven't heard more, is because I'm just busy there in the gardening,
Doing your
keeping
thing,
things going
yeah.
with the volunteers. But yeah, the berries were something we just had to do quickly, and we will have the vinegar at the Canadian Organic Growers Conference on Saturday. Normally it's exclusive to the Withrow Park Farmers Market because it is a very small craft project, as opposed to, like, even microbreweries are vast quantities compared to what the vinegar is. But
Wow.
yeah.
So this would be good for salads, things like that, like regular vinegar type stuff?
Yes, it's a very strong, and it's raspberry apple, which is really Canadian.
Do you make the
Sounds
vinegar yourself
amazing.
too?
No, we buy the vinegar. We
Okay.
buy the best Ontario produced,
Organic
raw,
apple
organic,
cider. Wow.
Wow.
pasteurized, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, and then we infuse the berries in it. And then as far as what we do with it, my favorite thing is to mix it with maple syrup. No
Oh, my
oil,
goodness.
no other herbs, just raspberry apple maple, which is, I think, the ultimate in Canadiana.
But then what do you do with that?
I put that on
Pancakes?
everything from salads to ice cream.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, is it good on vanilla ice cream?
Well, plus it cures stuff, right?
Yes.
The apple cider
Yep.
vinegar. Like I was saying before we started, I cured myself of a cold just last weekend.
Yes, I remember I brought you some
Yeah.
last time I was here, and you had a cold, and you emailed me afterwards saying that was really tasty.
And you've heard that before too,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
About that
yeah.
stuff?
Apple cider vinegar is a wonderful healing
Yeah.
item, but this
Well.
just makes it taste all that much better.
I have a very quick question. I just need to know, how do you know all this stuff?
I read a lot, and I just keep experimenting. I find it really fun. I get an idea and I take it a certain direction, and it either works or it doesn't work, and then I just go from there. And when I'm doing my speaking engagements on cold framing or on maximizing production or whichever, I like to talk about my failures as much as my successes, because if I've made that mistake, you don't need to make it again. So
I think we need to have an encyclopedia thing on you.
Oh, my.
Really, I do. I think we need, because you know so much about this, and I think this is so valuable for the future, for
Yes.
where we're going and what we need to do. And I think this makes people, it's so empowering for people.
Well, everybody
You're
around
like a
here.
David Suzuki kind of for the food, don't you think?
Well, yeah.
I really do
Well,
think so.
I think more and more people are becoming aware of how important the whole food issue is. Food security, food, organic food,
and
self-sufficiency.
the relationship with food.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right?
because
Connecting.
exactly.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's so important, and this is not something you're really learning in school. That's why I'm thinking the encyclopedia thing, because I don't think we can learn this.
I don't know. All I
You
think,
can, and it's not that hard.
yeah. Well, you're teaching
Well,
in
through
schools
you,
too, right?
but you said you like to learn. It's not really like there's no specific program that takes you to. This is really experiential.
Yes, but we do tours, and I have my book on the subject.
Right.
And because I've been doing speaking engagements all across southwestern Ontario since about 2006, I have years' worth of footage now, and I'm madly editing that together to have it ready for these CD Saturday events and this Canadian
amazing.
Organic Growers Conference this weekend. So,
So you are compiling certainly lots and lots. You will probably have a library at some point.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, actually, we do have some of that video now that we're going to watch.
Yes.
Right? And I know you're excited because you're just new to this video thing.
I am very new to editing, and what I brought you today, I just compiled the footage last night and just put the
Wow.
music to it this morning. You
Wow.
are getting
This is a
something
Hot off the
absolutely
press.
brand new. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and what I brought for you to see today is all the outtakes where I fumble and stumble and just
this
have
is-
great fun in the garden.
Oh, this is good. Okay. So now, before we cut to that, now where can we got the Ontario, the COG Toronto this weekend
Yes,
conference?
that's right.
Canadian Organic Growers.
Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
cogtoronto.com or
Yes.
is the website for
Yep.
people who want to get more info about
Exactly.
that. And you're going to be there. But where else can people find your work and get in touch with
My
you?
personal website is mudpies.ca, mudpies.ca. The Community Gardens website, which has a lot of photos on it of the work of cold framing over the years, is riverdalemeadow.ca.
Okay.
And anyone interested in Seeds of Diversity Canada, who puts on the CD Saturday events, can look at the Seeds of Diversity Canada website, and they list all the events all across the country.
Okay. All right. Well, great to have you back on
Thank
the show,
you.
Kyla. And so we're going to see these outtakes now. These are always fun. So
Well, and also it makes you feel like, you know what, if she's messing up, I can do this too. It makes it real for somebody who knows nothing about this.
Yes.
So it's much more.
exactly. And it's something
Inviting.
that everybody can get, even if you don't know what you're doing. Like last year, I didn't tell you, I grew potatoes for the first time last year.
Good for you. Aren't
And-
the flowers on them pretty?
Well, they're not that pretty.
Oh,
Maybe
No, of
he's-
course they're fat.
He probably did not grow potatoes. He just thinks they're potatoes.
No, I didn't get a lot, but at least I did it. I
Good
knew
for
nothing
you.
about it,
Yeah.
and I got enough for one meal.
oh, hey.
But now this year, I'm going to go back and just try it again, change a couple things up, and see what kind of a better crop I can get. So
Sometimes it's just the season, it's not you. I've
Yeah.
had years where I get abundance, and I've had years where it wasn't worth the effort, other than the
Wow.
learning curve.
all I'm saying
So,
is that no matter what level you're at, it's good to get your hands dirty and try to grow some food.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you for all that you're doing and for the education.
thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to watch the outtakes now from Kyla, and we're going to come back right after this with our next guest here on Liquid Lunch.
Hello and welcome to Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I guess before I begin, I should say that I've got a friend here who's doing some video for me. I get requests to go speak as far away as locations like Sudbury, and as a volunteer, it's a little far for me to go in a day. So we're just accumulating footage over my talks. No animals will be killed in the making of this video. No human egos either. What I like to talk about today is early head starts in the garden. And generally, I'm not interested in forcing flowers. I like to eat. So I like to grow what I can eat. And
By a show of hands, how many
sometimes where they're all about growing flowers, and I say, do you like to eat? Okay, well then it's a good idea to grow some food. You can speak it, you don't have to speak to Catherine. I'm user-friendly. My name's Kyla, what's your name? My name's Wendy. Wendy, nice to meet you. When you're in trouble now, you know. She's not his husband. She's not boss? Oh, well, that's a four-letter word, young lady.
It is a cold day, just days before winter solstice, and there's plenty of ice in the garden. Like my cold drinks, vegetables are still growing. Spinach is beautifully tender and sweet. But I wanted you to have a chance to see spinach that is really sweet. Really nice and protected and fresh and flavorful and soft here on a snowy day in the garden. Spinach salad for dinner tonight.
I did some dumpster diving last night in the recycling bins at our apartment building.
And it's windy out here today.
Now wait just one pea-pickin' minute. It's only the 29th of May. And I have dinner.
I don't know if I can get one out. But I'm going to try for you. Yes. Nice sandy soil, very sweet, succulent little. And they say we've all got to eat a peck of dirt in our lifetimes. Oh, that is nice. Winter gardening at its finest. Thanks again for joining.